Bengals Army? How we doing? We got
Hey,
Chris, Tony, and me. Probably gonna have a little vent sesh on this previous game. Overall, how you guys doing? It's not a victory Monday, but it's a Monday. The sun came up and the moon's out now, so everything in life's good, other than maybe football.
yep, on to week 3. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, tough one to watch, but we'll break her down.
Yeah, so I mean, at the game overall, I know you guys weren't there. Being there, there was just certain things that you don't catch. You can catch things in the game, and then you rewatch it on your laptop or at home. You have it recorded, and you catch different things. During the game, there's definitely a few things that went weird, like the hands to the face on Zach Carter. I mean, that was a big momentum shift. Like that was a fumble. The hands to the face during the game, it's hard to catch everything, and so it didn't look bad. Even when I got home, I was like, that was something I wanted to double check, see how it looked. To me, you can call that on almost every play. That was a little upsetting. That was a big momentum shift. Is there anything that caught your guys' eye off the rip that was super early?
I mean, go ahead, Chris.
I think just to talk about that hands to the face call again. I don't want to beat it into the ground or whatever, but I thought that was a very weak call. Like you said, you could call that on almost any play. Usually they're calling it if a guy's got his hand under the face mask, onto the chin strap, on the side of his helmet up here. But it felt like he had a hold of his shoulder pads and his hands just went up.
Just slid up.
So I don't think that that's necessarily a good call. It's hard to blame the refs in those situations because, I mean, if you see a guy up here, then that's kind of like a 50-50 call. It's similar to holding and whatever. But it's hard to deal with a 50-50 call whenever it completely changes the momentum and defense makes a great stop, gets a turnover, gets the ball, at the 20-25 yard line and goes from there. But
yeah, and I think the key point here is regardless of these calls, and I saw a lot of them, right? I mean, the CTB PI that or was it a defensive holding? I thought that was atrocious. But
illegal contact.
Illegal contact, whatever. It extended the drives. And what the Ravens did really well, and they did the same thing in the playoff game last year, they try to control the football. They ran double the plays that Cincinnati did, and these penalties that kept getting Cincinnati at these points in the game, they weren't just penalties off the rip. They were key points in the game that kept these drives alive and kept the offense off the field. And that's ultimately one of the big reasons, outside of some other things that we'll talk about, that led to Cincinnati losing. They didn't even have half the plays that Baltimore had, and they controlled the clock. So that was my takeaway from it. Dusty, any last thoughts on that?
Well, like you said, some of the key points I have wrote down was time possession and turnovers. And we lost the turnover battle. It should have been tied, honestly. That was a weak call. We can all agree on that. And then the time possession, it seemed like, and it could have just been me. I watched some of the game when I got home. I watched it earlier today, actually, but it just seemed like the Ravens kept getting just chunk yards. No, I'm not saying chunk yards by 20, 30 yards. I'm talking 8 yards on first down, second down. It's 8 yards, 7 yards. And it was such of a second and manageable, third and manageable. And they just kept that time possession, just kept tallying up. And I don't want to jump too far ahead with that because I have other talking points that I think will make it flow a little better. But yeah, it was upsetting seeing that and seeing them control it. And honestly, I feel and I talked about, I'm not going to hit on anything crazy about the Twitter world because Twitter's crazy, but no matter how much you love the Bengals, and we all love the Bengals, and all of us know we've been Bengals fans for really most of our lives, and there's an accountability factor. If a team comes out and they play hard, and we've seen it in the dark ages, a team play hard and they lose, and it's man, that was a tough game. It was still a fun game. It was a tough game. But when you have better players and the matchups are better, you have defensive backs out on the Ravens defense, attack it. You have offensive linemen out. Like, I get containing Lamar Jackson's a tough take. It's tough to actually contain him. You want to keep him in the pocket. But, man, I don't know. I feel like the middle of the field was open for them a lot. I feel like that we didn't get the pressure that we should have. Like I said, maybe it was just I don't know. It just seemed very weird, and I really thought in the second half we'd make some adjustments. I love the team. I don't like putting blame on anybody, but with any job in any profession, there's an accountability factor.
Yeah, and one of the things that you guys both just talked about, the time of possession and the accountability kind of ties into this. I think that the defense has been catching a lot of flack for not being good enough through the first couple weeks. And I think part of the reason that they're not being good enough is because the Browns game, they were on the field for 20%, longer than the Browns were. It was the time of possession was like 24 to 36. So if you got your defense out there for, 12 minutes longer of game time than your offense is out there, like, yeah, they're going to be a little bit more worn down. They're going to be a little bit more tired, especially against the Browns team, who, like, their strength is up front in their offensive line and in their running backs. So that's going to be tough on anybody and on their front seven. And I think that the Ravens game, the Bengals defense catches a lot of flack for giving up 2 scores in the second half. But I think one of the things that you kind of gotta look at there is that in the first half, the Bengals offense did nothing. I don't know what the time of possession split was for the first half, but I can imagine that the defense was already worn down after that first half, probably spending, another 20% longer on the field than the Bengals offense was, or something like that. It ended up finishing like 27 minutes to 33. And I think a lot of that was in the first half, because the Bengals got some drives going in the second half and kind of evened it up there a little bit. But yeah, that's
what was upsetting too was the missed field goal. That was somewhat early on. I don't know what the Justin Tucker field goal was. It was his first field goal. It was
a 59-yard field goal. It was a long 59-yarder. Yeah.
So we get the ball within our 50-yard line, like on our side, and we can't get a field goal out of it. That's where I get mad. Like, you have Evan McPherson, who is a really good kicker. It should be a top 5 kicker. You can argue it either way, but he's a really good kicker. They call him Money Mac for a reason. If you get 10 yards, you're in field goal range. Like, get 10 yards. Like, there's no reason you can't. And this is where the coaching thing gets involved. Like, I love what Zach's done with like culture. I love how he acts with fans when he's out in public. I love the game balls for the playoff games. That's awesome, and that carries more weight. And I will support somebody that's like that 100%. But at the same time, it's like, dude, if you got to be able to scheme Jamar open, you got to scheme T open. There's no reason to have these two dudes and Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, I'll argue this, and I argued it before the season started with some people. It was on a different podcast, and we were talking about it. But he's a top 10 running back, and we saw if you get him moving, there was a couple yard where he got like 10 yards. He got us a first down on a 10-yard carry. He got us another, I think it was like maybe a second short, third and short, gets it, and that was when we were in the red zone. And it's just so frustrating when there should be some go-to plays. And AJ Green was the ruler of the jungle this week. How many times did we see Andy Dalton and AJ pick up 6 yards, 8 yards on little curl routes, little out routes, and it was automatic? It was okay. How do we not have that with Joe and Jamar? And I get you can say timing and all this stuff. Still, there's accountability. Joe is. I'm getting aggravated. Joe is a great player. He is, and he deserves the money he got. But you have great weapons. There's no reason we can't pick up a few yards here and there and get in field goal range if you're not moving the ball. when you get the ball on your side of the 50, or maybe not your side of the 50, but around the 50-yard line.
Yeah, I mean, you said it right, but I mean, we can go into a lot of different reasons why. I think I saw a couple different things. First and foremost, the play calling, and you talked about it a little bit, right? The play calling, the scheming, it's predictable, it's basic, it's, in my opinion, low level college at best. They're not scheming these guys open. And I start to look at this more and more and more. And I hate sounding like a homer, and I hate, saying these players are so great. They are, right? But a lot of the plays that we're seeing Joe, T, all these guys make is because they're athletes, because they're making plays. I don't think it's because of the scheme, and I'm starting to smell that more and more as I watch Zach Taylor coach. It's basic play calling, but playmakers are making these plays. And then number two for me, third down defense, right? Regardless of how long you've been on the field, at the very end of the game, and I point to it, you had two different chances to get them off the field and third down. Your second and third down defense is not that great, man. I mean, you're getting them into third and short, third and three, third and four, third and two, and you expect these guys to get a stop. You're leaving the middle of the field wide open. So, I mean, I can point to a lot of things, and I'm sure I could complain all night to you guys about this stuff, but it's the scheming on offense. I think they need to get some creativity going, or quite honestly, I think Zach needs to stop calling plays, number one. And then number two, Lou Anarumo, you've been a really good schemer. You guys need to get these guys in position to stop them on third down and get the defense off the field. I mean, straight up. I could say all day long the defense was on the field for half the game, but guess what? What does that mean? Offense isn't doing a whole lot, but they're also not getting off the field because they're not stopping them on third down, right? That's just the obvious fact. It's got to get better, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily agree at the end that like, oh, time possession is only because the defense is not getting off the field. Like the offense has like 50% of their drives, almost 50% of their drives that start in 3
No,
and out.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
I
like
know.
if you can't get off the field, right, and get the ball back to your offense, what good is a defense? They have these really nice extended drives. That's the big thing.
Yeah, and I think that part of it is just this year to start, the players on defense haven't been making plays. Because I thought for instance, the Zay Flowers, the bomb, I thought that Cam Taylor-Britt was actually in pretty good position to play the ball there. And he tried, and it was a nice physical catch by Flowers, and what was probably a perfectly placed ball by Lamar Jackson. The slot fade to Nelson Aguilar, and Cheeto was man-to-man on him in the slot. If you're going to ask me, do I want Chidobe Awuzie on Nelson Aguilar one-on-one, I'm going to say yes, emphatically yes. So I thought that was a perfectly placed ball, and it looked like Cheeto got kind of like a late break on the route. I don't know if he was turning.
He did. He got turned. He turned and had to turn the opposite way. I think, Dusty, were you in that end zone? You saw that?
I don't know. Jess is making some pizza rolls right now. If you want to say hi to her.
So
I'm a little distracted with that pizza roll coming in. But no, I remember him having some catches, but I'm really not sure on that exact play you're talking about.
Yeah, but it looked to me like maybe he was trying to get some like late communication like on the snap, because it looked like he kind of got a late break on the snap, and Aguilar had a step on him from the jump, and then that was just another well-placed ball by Lamar Jackson. So like I thought that was like just Cheeto needs to make a better play there. And one of the things that I specifically wrote down was Logan Wilson on the Lamar Jackson spy at the end of the game on a 3rd and short. Obviously, it's a tough job to spy Lamar Jackson, but he dove hard and got engaged with the lineman. And that allowed Lamar to bounce back outside, and Sam Hubbard didn't keep contained on that side. If one of those two guys does their job, we might get a stop there. But it's a tough look, obviously. You know, you have the spy going with Logan Wilson, so you think that yeah, the guy's going to be in a good position. He's just got to make the play. And we get a little mistake there where Lamar's able to bounce out. And, if he bounces, don't worry about it because Sam Hubbard can keep contained. It was like the perfect timing where Sam turns his head inside to try to find Lamar. And as he's shifting to look inside is when Lamar is bouncing. So there's no way that he's going to be able to get back outside quick enough. And that's when Lamar runs for 6 or 8 on a 3rd and 2. And one of the things that one of you guys talked about was the second down defense. I thought the third down defense was tough, like 9 of 14 first downs they give up. But it's hard to defend when you're every single time it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. I can probably there are probably more than 5 or 6 times when it's you get a good defensive play on first down. Okay, now it's 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9. And then next thing you know, Baltimore busts out a 5 or 6 or 7 yard run, like basically right up the middle on 2nd down. So I don't know exactly what the issue was there. Like you'd think that the Bengals front 7 would have the advantage against injured Baltimore offensive line, but it's like you guys said, they couldn't get a stop on 2nd down. They couldn't force him into that 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. And every single time it was like, 3rd and 2. Well, when you have a quarterback like Lamar who can scramble for 2 yards at almost any point, that's so tough to defend.
Can I pick a bone for a second? Not to talk over you, Chris. Can I pick a bone for a second? I've given him the benefit of the doubt, man. I've loved this guy for the last couple years. And this might stoke some fires, but I don't like Sam Hubbard anymore. I like him as a dude. I like him as a personality. I like him as a contributor on some runs. But I saw him just absolutely get turned around, frozen up, and lose contained more times than I could count on my fingers, man. It drove me absolutely nuts to watch Lamar Jackson just run right by this dude in some critical situations. They've got to do something, man. I don't know if that answer is developing Miles Murphy, which I didn't see. He got blocked into the next zip code. I'm sorry, but he did. But I don't know. I could ramble on. I don't see Sam Hubbard as a guy that they need to keep around long term and expect him to play 3 downs. I just don't see it.
Well, speaking of that, I felt like at the game in which this isn't me being a homer or anything, but there looked like a lot of different times where there was I'm not saying there was holding. There you can call holding on every play, just like the hands to the face I said. I just felt like there was times we should be getting pressure, and it looked from my point of view, in which I didn't, like I said, I didn't watch the whole game. I watched bits and pieces of it when I got home. It looked like the defensive line there was holding that could have been called a lot, and I could be completely wrong. I'll have to watch it a little more in depth and not just bits and pieces here and there. But that I don't know if that was a factor of it. But the defensive line, I really expected a lot more. And I understand Lamar, he's dangerous. We got to contain him. But man, they're down 2 offensive linemen. Attack it. Like it was like Lou was playing preventative defense, and we're just okay. Let them get chunks. But you can't do that because they have the best kicker in the league. So at some point, we have to do something. And I would have liked to see more pressure going. And I really think Joseph Osai being out was could have been that X factor for just a little something more. But still, you have Jermaine Pratt who can come up. Did you guys see? No, I didn't see at all where we put Mike Hilton. I didn't see any blitzes with him, and I feel like there was times Mike Hilton is an elite nickel corner. Like he can come through and you can put him up, you can blitz him, you can do different things. It would just been nice to see some sort of pressure schemed up, a scheme pressure, get him in there. If it's a run, it's a run. Like we trust DJ Reader, BJ Hill, we Sam Hubbard in the run. We trust these guys. So if you're betting on a run, but we're giving up these chunk plays where it's like we said earlier, it seemed like it was always like second and 4, second and 3, third and 2, third and 3, which is the Bengals just struggled so much offensively to even get in those positions to where we were third and short. So, and that all goes to the scheme, and that's why I was upset. And I talked about the coaching stuff earlier.
Let me pose the question real quick. Do you think they're playing Mike Hilton off a little bit because they don't trust these new safeties? Or, I mean, I didn't see, to your point, Dusty, I didn't see a whole lot of blitzes from him. Are they using him more as a true nickel corner because they don't trust these guys in the secondary?
Okay, so I'll answer a little bit of that. And Chris, I know you had a thought. I can see you. We had DJ Turner. It seemed like DJ Turner played a decent bit from my point of view, in which when you're watching live and you're watching on TV, things it seems a little different. And when you're not at games as often as some people, like a couple games, few games a year, it seems like it moves a little quicker when you're there. It seemed like I know Cheeto missed. It might have been like a little bubble screen, and he missed. It might have been like a third and 4 or something, and he missed the tackle on that bubble screen, gave him a first down, and that's not a Cheeto that we resemble. You know, like Cheeto's normally pretty good in open space. He makes that play. If he makes that play, it's a loss of 2. Now I think it was a third down. So it would have been fourth and probably moved him back to like a 4th and 6. They would have punted the ball. I'm pretty sure that was when they kicked the field goal. I could be wrong. I'll go back and watch it. I really don't like watching them, but I'll watch it again. But like, it's just them little minute things to get off the field, in which we've talked about that with third downs. Like it makes a big difference. Get off the field on third down. You make that play. It at least makes it a little more predictable. You can maybe draw up more pressure if it was a second down.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to come back to answer your question, Tony, I would say just pretty directly, I would say no. I don't think that using Mike Hilton in a more traditional nickel corner role is due to the lack of trust in the safeties. I think that Lou Anarumo probably does have a tendency to play a little bit more conservative without the playmaking ability of obviously Jesse Bates and Von Bell back there. I think one of the things that you miss with Von Bell is the ability to get into the right coverage and to change things around and to be creative back there. But I think that partially the issue is that Lou feels like he's like, all right, I'm getting everybody in the right position, and now my front 4 are going to get pressure. That's great if it works, but if it doesn't, every now and again, you have to send a Mike Hilton. You have to send Jermaine Pratt and Logan Wilson, who are both excellent athletes. You got to do a little bit of twist action and send an outside guy inside and send an inside guy outside and whatever. We heard a lot in the preseason, and this was from local outlets and stuff like that they were going to use their versatility on defense, and they're going to use their versatility. And we've heard Lou say it the last few years. He loves guys with versatility. And that's one of the reasons I think that he's that the Bengals are big on Sam Hubbard, is because he gives them the ability. You can put Sam Hubbard at an inside 3-eye technique. You can play him at a wide 9. You can play him at a set. You can play him all over the defensive line. And I think that there's a lot of guys that they're going after that kind of fit that same mold. I mean, Joseph Osai, you can play inside and outside. Trey Hendrickson, you can bump inside every now and again. BJ Hill, I think in a heavy package, he can play a little more outside if you need to. Sam Hubbard, Cam Sample, I think does a really good job of playing inside outside. Miles Murphy, they specifically mentioned that when they drafted him. And the versatility on defense just doesn't seem to be showing up for me. We have 3 safeties who can potentially play. They've been high on Jordan Battle. We obviously have, DJ Turner on top of Chidobe Awuzie, on top of Cam Taylor-Britt, who I think has played really well in these first couple games. And then you have Mike Hilton inside. Where are all the packages where we're coming in and we have 5 down linemen and 2 linebackers and 2 safeties, or you know what I mean? Where are all these packages where we could show off this versatility? I think, yes, you do have talented players on defense, and maybe it's just it's early in the season, we don't want to show a lot of our kind of tips and tricks, but you're on 2, dog, and this was 2 division games. So that's a very long-winded way to say I think that although I do trust Lou, and he's given me a reason to trust him after I was kind of coming hard after him after the first year or 2 that he was in, I was like, that dude might have to go because the defense is bad. He's bought the trust from me, and I think that it's just going to have to he's going to have to start showing something a little flashier than he's used to. I think he's going to have to start using those guys and dialing up some creative pressures, because I know he's got it in there. He just got to get it onto the field.
Well, Chris, just like Tony said, was it a trust thing? But you also said early on in his career, when he got to Cincinnati that first year, it was a big struggle. We were all kind of like, man, what is this? Because we had, what was that guy's name? Not Terrell Austin. Terrell, it doesn't matter. He came from Detroit.
Yeah, it was Terrell Austin.
Terrell Austin. And it was just the worst 3 to 5 game stretch in Bengals history. And then we get Zach Taylor comes in, we get this new regime, and then we get Lou. And it was kind of like this weird, okay, Lou seemed like he was like our 5th option. We did we really want Lou? And then he comes out the next year. It's like, oh, he's got his guys. He's balling out. Our guys are playing to his scheme. And so, like Tony said, does he trust these players on the defensive back end? And honestly, I think Dax Hill played a great game. From the stands, it looks a lot different than live on how it looks. So, like I said, I need to go back and rewatch all that. But it looked like Dax, he came up on some run plays. He made some plays in coverage. He had a play against Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends in the league. He came up and he hit Mark, and he had his hands. I remember watching it. He has hands right under his armpits, up, broke the ball up, and that would have been around the 3rd down line. And that was a big play that I can remember happening. But overall, he still has veterans in there Cam Taylor-Britt, 2nd-year player, but you expect a lot out of CTB, in which I think he wants people to expect a lot out of him because he's got a lot of potential, and he was a 2nd-round draft pick. And then with Cheeto coming back from injury, it's kind of like, man, you want him to be there, you want him to be healthy. And there was times I've seen him do his thing, but just like that open field tackle, if he takes him out, that's a big thing. So the trust could make. I don't know if it's there or if they just thought they could contain Lamar, get the ball back in Joe's hands. But it was just weird because at the end of the game, we had no urgency at all. There was, at least even in the stands, it was just like there's 6 minutes left. We're down, I think, 10, and we end up scoring. So I understand methodically wanting to push the ball down the field, but man, it was like speed it up a little, get a little momentum, get the ball moving, and then let the defense come out. And at least if they do kick a field goal or something, and we're up 6 or we're down 6 at this point, the offense still has a chance. There was no urgency, and that's coaching. And I know people on Twitter will say, "Oh, Joe changes things at the line of scrimmage. He audibles a lot," which is true, and that's great. But when you're waiting for that call to get in, you're still waiting. Like, let's push it, let's move, and get up to the line of scrimmage, have these calls ready, and let's go. There's no reason with Jamar and T and Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon, how many carries did Joe Mixon have in the first quarter?
Not enough.
Did he have 1 carry? That's
not
all
enough.
I can recall. He might have had 2 carries.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It just seems to me, and we have some disagreements on this. it feels to me that there's not enough trust in that defensive back end yet. And I think all of this, what we're talking about, right, goes right back to utilizing the preseason properly. It feels like they use these first 2 or 3 games to feel out their roster and get an idea of where guys should be, what they want to do with them. But like, that's what the preseason is for, man. Like, I don't understand. I don't know how many times I've heard this online. We've talked about it a number of times. Zach Taylor doesn't play these starters in the preseason, and then it bites them for the first 2 or 3 games of the season as they try to figure it out and be patient. I get it, man. I'll give Zach the benefit of the doubt. I've talked a lot of what about him. I've been critical of him. I've been critical of his play calling. But at the end of the day, you've got a preseason, irregardless of the Joe Burrow injury. You've got 52 other dudes on this roster, right, that you need to get an idea of what they're doing. So when you come into that game one, you're ready to roll. And to me, it does not seem like they are ready to roll at all for like 3 or 4 weeks typically. They might get a gimme win here week 3 or week 4, and then they really start to pick it up, right? You need to use that preseason, man. I don't know. It is a little bit of a lack of trust, but I think again it goes right back to understanding your players and understanding your roster before you go into a week 1 matchup.
Yeah, I think that
Chris Evans. Sorry,
go ahead, Justy.
Chris Evans we used him last year on some wheel routes. He ended up scoring a touchdown. I can't remember if it was against the Chiefs or if there was a play
Detroit.
where
it was Detroit early in the season.
It was
they
Detroit.
Used on a wheel.
And it's just like, dude, we have so many weapons. I just can't. I can't come up with excuses. I love Zach Taylor, like we said. We like what he's done for the culture and stuff. And maybe he doesn't trust Brian Callahan, or maybe I don't know if they butt heads inside of each other to where they compromise. I don't know what's going on. I'm not in their locker room, which they all get along good. But it's like, man, there's so many weapons. How can you not scheme things open? And when you have a guy like Chris Evans on the back end of your roster that's dynamic, that you can get open. If he played, as much as we don't like the Chiefs, it's not that we don't like the Chiefs because the Chiefs are good. It's probably because the Chiefs fans annoy us more than anything. And we've lost to them. We lost that one game last year in the championship game. But overall, the coaching puts players in the best position. Just like the Browns game last week. I don't understand how we lost that game, but you have Nick Chubb and these guys. If you stop the run and you stop Myles Garrett, like there's not a big reason the Bengals, if you look at the roster, just how does that not work out? I don't know. It's hard to put things in words, I guess, for it. But if you look at players roster to roster, position by position, this guy should win this battle. This guy should win this battle.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of quick points, then we can move on to whatever's next. But I think that whatever happened to the preseason, the last preseason game being the dress rehearsal game, where your starters come out and they play the entire half. Like both team starters come out and they play the entire half because you have to get that live action. Like, yeah, you don't want to get guys hurt, but guess what? These guys can get hurt at practice running through their warm-up drill. Like, you can't protect everybody to victory. Like, these guys are out here. You got to let them do it. And one thing that I think also comes along with that is that chemistry is like an immeasurable stat, right? You can't be like, oh, the Bengals had, 32 passing yards in the first half. Their chemistry was really low. You can't say that. But what you can say is that when guys are on the same page, when Joe Burrow can throw the timing routes and throw the back shoulder with Jamar Chase, when he doesn't have to wait for Jamar to break, when he knows where he's going to be, when he's going to be there. If you can throw the ball before an NFL defensive back is able to break because Jamar hasn't even broken out of his route yet, there is not one single corner in the league that can cover that. If you can throw the ball over the middle of the field to Tyler Boyd on an option route because you know that you guys are seeing the same thing and he's going to break in because the safety was in a certain spot or whatever, then there's not a single NFL cornerback that can defend that. Like the chemistry and the use of the preseason to get people on the same page, I think super underrated, has gone super by the wayside. But yeah.
Now, would you? I think the argument is if Joe Burrow's not out there, right? Like he had his injury with his calf. If he's not out there, is it worth the other players playing?
Yes.
For it? And I think
Yes.
it is. Okay,
Yes,
so we're all in
100%.
agreement. Yes.
Yeah, it is.
So-
I don't care if Joe Burrow's not out there. Get all the other starters out there. Get the offensive line in sync. And Joe Burrow doesn't play defense the last time I checked. So
Yeah, I think one thing with the defense too, to make it just another quick point. I'm sorry, I keep kind of trying to jump in here, but dang,
You're right.
I think that like it might be that Lou doesn't trust the back end of the defense. Like that's certainly a thing that might be happening. But if that is the case, I guess from my perspective, I have no idea why that would be the case. Because I think that like Cam Taylor-Britt and Dax Hill have like really proven themselves to be like good players so far. I think they've both had a couple of good games. I think they've like there's been nothing but positive talk in camp about these guys. So like if Lou doesn't trust the back end of the defense, then that's a Lou problem. That's not a youth problem, or that's not a like a young guy problem, because they've proven themselves. Like I think at this point, you have an excellent front seven, so you can trust that Cheeto, Mike Hilton, Cam Taylor-Britt, and Dax Hill, even if that fifth spot is a wild card, and you don't necessarily, all the way trust Nick Scott, or if Jordan Battle's in there, like you don't necessarily all the way trust him. It's got to be sorry, there was a fly flying in front of there, but yeah.
Well, I can agree with that, but also Dax Hill was a first-round draft pick. Like he's a first-round draft pick for a reason. You have an athletic guy, a speedster. You have Cam Taylor-Britt, who was a second-round draft. You're picking these guys high in the draft. You need to eventually trust them. And I don't know. Like the preseason, like we were talking about, Joe's not out there. Still, the offensive lineman. If you listen to Dave Lapham, he talks about it being like a fist. All five fingers work together as one. You don't necessarily have to have the quarterback in there to do that. Like you guys can do your scheme. You can work together. You could run 3 straight run plays and get a 3 and out. And what they learn, you could run 2 straight run plays and throw the ball and get a 3 and out. And then, now we have something to study and learn from and move on. It just, the preseason, I would like to see them at least get a little bit in there, get a little camaraderie, in which they played together last year. But it's just, it's frustrating, man. And just imagine, so we went 6 quarters without a touchdown. Or not 6, 5.5 quarters without a touchdown. In the only
6
six
without an
without an
offensive touchdown. Yeah.
What's that?
Thanks, you owe me a whiskey. So without an offensive touchdown, we did go 6 quarters because the touchdown was a punt return. Without that, I mean, if we're going into half, it's 13-3 instead of 13-10, then you're gonna be a lot more critical, or at least I will, and I'll still be that critical because it was a punt return touchdown, because it's kind of like there's a little bit of luck in that. The offense was poo-poo in the first half, so
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sorry, go ahead, Tony.
No, go ahead. I was gonna break some news, but go ahead.
Oh God,
it's not about the Bengals, but it's not. Okay. I'm not happy about this. I'm not cheering for this. Just disclaimer: Nick Chubb will 100% be out the rest of the season.
No.
So yeah. So if you guys want to go offline, that was a nasty knee injury. Yeah, I don't cheer for any players' injuries, not even on the Browns, but that's some
No.
breaking news while we've been potting.
Yeah.
That was a nasty, nasty injury.
I just watched the replay, and I think that I've said it on here before. Nick Chubb is like one of my favorite non-Bengals in the NFL. I know
The
he's a
number one
limited,
running back in the NFL.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolute stud,
Oh,
absolute beast. And it definitely sucks that it's the Steelers that like injured him too, because I just hate those guys so much.
I mean, like I said, I'm not going to cheer for anyone's injury. That dude needs to be out there. But yeah, just some breaking news on the pod. He's 100% going to be out the rest of the season. If he's not, then that man is quite literally made of steel.
Yeah, that's tough.
yeah,
I'm
we're in the
watching the
same
video
text
right
group.
now, and it's gnarly.
I just saw that in the text group. The picture. Did you see that, Tony?
Say what?
You see the picture in the text group?
I saw that, and then I saw the video. The video is way worse than that text picture.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
shame. Like we said, if we lose a game against a fully healthy team in the Super Bowl, that's how we'll lose. I don't. I want the best players on the field, and I think any true fan of football, maybe not your team, but a fan of football, you want the best players out there. You want to see that, and if you wish differently, then you might want to look in the mirror because these guys they're people too. They're all humans. They're all people. They got families. Their time frame in the NFL is very short. I've got people that I know that played a lot of college football, made little stints in the league and different things. In regardless on what team they play for, you never want that because their families are good people. For the most part, they're good people. And if you wish against anybody like that, that's it's really a shame. You should take a look in your mirror because I don't want to win the AFC North and be like, oh, the best running back in the AFC North is out for the year. No, I want to win it outright. I don't want excuses. Just the same as any other team, I wouldn't want them to have excuses for us or against us.
Any last thoughts on the game, fellas? I know we spent the last 42 minutes venting. I think it's pretty clear walking away from tonight before we do a pregame, what I would call a game preview later in the week. Play calling's got to get better. They got to build some trust and cohesion, huh? I mean, that's the theme of what we just talked about. So I think we hit a lot of good points. I'm looking forward to this coming week against the Rams, certainly, but questions to be had. I want to know how bad this Joe Burrow injury is, too. I think he is injured, and I mean, he's had 6-7 weeks to heal. I think it's an injury.
I can't believe we've gotten the entire way and haven't even mentioned that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that I would think that it's like severe necessarily because he re-aggravated it. I think a calf injury is just something that's like kind of it's just weird. Like Sam Hubbard had one last year, and we heard him talk about it, and like obviously I am a much lower caliber athlete than these guys are, but like I've strained my calf before, and the weird thing about a calf injury is that like as opposed to a hamstring or a groin, if you pull one of those, like like, oh, I'm 80%, I'm 90%, whatever. If you pull your calf, if you strain your calf, it's like you feel like you're good, you feel like you're 100%, like until you're not. So it's a really tough line because Joe could have been saying like they could have held him out for a couple weeks and okay, now he's feeling 90%, so we're going to ease him back into things. And then they do some tests and he's like, oh yeah, I'm feeling good. And then he's pushing it, keeps feeling good. And then all of a sudden there's a re-aggravation. So that's a really tough one to talk about and to go about. But yeah, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, hope for the best. We'll see what kind of news pops out later this week and go from there.
Dusty, got anything to add? Sorry, bud.
I thought I hit the mute, and I thought I hit the camera.
Yeah.
And I was sitting here eating these tacos that Justice made, and I was like, I hit the camera once. I was about to say something. I set the taco down, and I pulled it up, and I hit the mute. So now you guys got me sitting here eating
Hey,
this.
I heard Chris talking about Joe Burrow. I was looking at that taco the whole time, man. I mean, to be honest with you, sorry.
I distracted you guys. My bad.
That's all right.
No, it was good. It was a good taco. But no, Chris,
Burrowito.
I do agree with what you were saying. I don't even know what you said right there because I'm still trying to eat this taco and not choke.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Any last thoughts, fellas? I mean, anything else? I think we need to put a coffin on this one and move on. But that's
yeah.
me.
Put the nails in her. My only thing is, offensively, we didn't score any touchdowns. The only touchdown we scored was through the through special teams. Then we score another touchdown later. That NT has two. That to me, it's just ridiculous. Accountability is huge. You guys know me. I'll hold you accountable. You hold me accountable. That's what friends do. That's what a locker room does. A locker room will hold their team accountable. Coaches will hold their coaches accountable. So by us venting and saying we're not happy with certain things, that doesn't make us bad fans. That doesn't make us bad people. That makes us realists, and that makes us want these people to do better, right? Like we want the team to do better, and they want to do better. So if you sit there and say, "Oh no, it's okay and it's cool," well, that's not really the best thing because you need that little push. You need to understand. In which I'm not saying they don't understand. I know they understand it, but I can do something wrong and know I did it wrong. Chris, Tony, you guys are like, dude, that was wrong, man. It's like, man, now I feel a little worse about it. But we're going to get together and we're going to be okay, and we're going to move on, and we're going to work together. So just because you disagree with certain things, different play calling, different maybe the effort in certain situations you don't think's there, doesn't mean that we don't respect the players or respect the coaches. It just means we might expect a little more, and they expect more of themselves more than we expected them, in which I get it. But I just think going 6 quarters without an offensive touchdown with the weapons we have is unacceptable. With Evan McPherson, he's a legitimate weapon. We need to push the ball down the field. But other than that, man, I don't think I have anything else really. So the only thing I have is the urgency at the end of the game. So the end of the game came around. I feel like we didn't push the ball, but we also didn't utilize the clock to our advantage. And then Baltimore got the ball back, and they just ran the clock out. That was a little upsetting. We don't have to hit on it now. I just had to get that part out because I had it wrote down. I was like, man, that did irritate me a little bit because we couldn't get off the field on third. There was a couple third downs, couldn't get off the field, but we also took our time with like 6-7 minutes left. We did score a touchdown, which is great, but we didn't leave enough time on the clock.
Yeah. I think to wrap up some final thoughts on the game. One thing for me is that I'm very, very critical on myself. So I'm going to be very critical on those around me and those I care about. And everybody knows I really, really care about the Bengals. Like I obviously want them to succeed. So for anybody out there to say, oh, you can't be critical on the Bengals and you can't be hard on the players and you can't be hard on the coaches and still care about them and still want them to win, it's just false. Like I care about this team so much. I put so much of my own time and my own effort into like watching the games, into, cooking up wings and having friends over to watch the games and talking to my friends. And you know what I mean? Like that's why we're here. That's why we're on this podcast, because we love talking Bengals. Like, so for anybody to say, oh, you can't be critical of the team and still want them to win, it's just false. We obviously want them to win. We obviously care about the success of the team. But when somebody needs called out, you have to say it. It doesn't make it less true if you're just 100% supportive and, I get it and I'm willing to be patient and I'm on board, it doesn't make it less true that people can be better. So as far as last thoughts on the games, I just think the first half was pitiful. It was awful. The only bright spot in the first half was Charlie Jones getting the punt return for a touchdown. We'd like to see a little bit more of the, hopefully he can continue to impress in the punt return game. Obviously, you're not expecting touchdowns every game, but, for him to help us get in better field position will be awesome. The defense, I look for the defense to improve. 0 sacks, I think, against Lamar Jackson. We talked before the season about if the Bengals, if we think that Joe Burrow will throw more touchdowns or the Bengals will have more sacks. Well, guess what? Both of those suck right now. So both of those things need to improve. As far as the defense is concerned, get pressure on the quarterback. I don't care if you have to send 5 guys, 6 guys. Every now and again, you got to do it. You have the athletes to do it. You should be able to trust the guys on the back end. Even if you do like a safety blitz, you blitz one of the young safeties in a cover 0 look, something like that. Keep the guys out in coverage that you do trust. Cheeto, Cam Taylor-Britt, Mike Hilton, Pratt and Wilson have both been good coverage linebackers. You have ability to be versatile, be versatile. So the defense definitely needs to improve, and the offense started to get it rolling in the second half. I'm hoping that momentum will carry over. I know that it is all dependent probably upon how Joe's feeling and how his calf is doing. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that they're able to they're able to get that thing wrapped up tight, so he can make some plays, and that he can just, even if he's not moving around the pocket like he wants to, for him to be there mentally and to have the communication and the timing with those receivers. I think he'll be able to put the ball in the right spot, and I think the offense can improve just based on that. So offense got to be better. Defense has got to be better. Beat the Rams. Let's go.
You're on mute, buddy. What's up?
Oh, I said, what you got, Tony? You look like you had something you want. Give some closing thoughts, man.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm falling asleep over here. No, on to the Rams. I want Joe Burrow to get healthy, man. So if he has to sit out a week, that's fine with me. My bone is that I think Zach Taylor is going to trot out Jake Browning before he trots out Will Greer. And I don't think the fan base wants to see that. I would like to see a Will Greer out there, get some snaps if we have to go that route. And Aaron Donald's coming to town, man. I still think the Rams are playing some good ball despite being a depleted team. They're playing some good ball, man. Them, Tampa Bay, some of these teams that we thought were going to be just trash this season are playing good ball. I want to see Cincinnati play a complete game, get a victory, get back on the track. Even if it's a gritty win, get something in the win column, get some confidence behind these young guys, and build some chemistry, man, because ultimately there's going to be a rough stretch of the season, especially midway through that schedule where they're going to have to play the Niners. They're going to have to play the Bills, right? They're going to be playing the Chiefs, right? They're going to be there's some hard games on this roster. We've got 2 losses, and if I know one thing's for sure in the NFL, you get 5, 6 losses. That's about it. After that, it gets a little gray. And if you're a 10-win team, I know we played a 16-game schedule. 10 wins meant playoffs. I'd say 11 wins in the AFC North, and you're still a fringe team, right? They've got to kick it up, build consistency, get some wins, and take a breath, man. I think we're all up in arms, and certainly I'll admit that I'm up in arms about this team. We want to see them succeed. We're allowed to be critical, but we want to see these dudes succeed. And I just hope for some good things this week, man. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Yeah. So 2-0 or 0-2, it doesn't seem critical, right? 0-2 in the division. That's where my problem is. 0-2 in the division, that gets me a little upset, especially when we all can agree and we've all said it that the division is so tight and it's going to be close, and you have to win multiple digits to get into the playoffs. And you lose the division, and we seen what playoff seeding did last year. Super upsetting. Also, like, just going to Arrowhead. Tired of going to Arrowhead. Don't want to go to Buffalo again. Like, Buffalo's, you don't think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder? Like, we go up there, and they're not even the worst. You got Miami that's playing some good ball. You have I don't know. It's hard to tell with the Jets with Aaron Rodgers and everything, but which is a shame because we said before we want to play the best players. We want to play against the best players. But man, next week the Rams are playing some decent ball, and that comes down to coaching. Like it all comes back to that. We have the pieces, we have the players. We know we have one of the most talented rosters in our lifetime. We're all around 30 years old. That in our lifetime is the most talented roster there is. I just don't. I said on Twitter to somebody, excuses are for losers, in which they tried to twist my words around. I'm not going to get into it, but excuses. If I lose or if I do anything wrong and I make excuses for, yes, I can make excuses behind closed doors or whatever, but there's not much of an excuse for schemes in different things when you have the pieces to do it. It's different if you don't have the players, if you don't have a T. Higgins and a Jamar and a Joe Burrow and a Joe Mixon and a 4-time Pro Bowl left tackle in Orlando Brown Jr. Like, we have pieces on the offensive side of the ball that we should be putting up 30 points a game. Like, honestly, I don't see a reason behind not doing that. And when that's not there, that's unacceptable to me, and it should be unacceptable for fans. And you can be a good fan and hold your team accountable. And if you're in which what players are watching us, I don't know, probably none. But you want to be held accountable. You want a higher standard, and that's where it's at. And we have a really tough game ahead of us, boys. I think the Rams are going to play us good. They've been looking pretty good. They looked good against the 49ers, which was we were watching that on the way home, and it was a fairly close game with a really good defense. So that's what's coming to us Monday. Nothing.
Yep. I mean, we're like, there's not much more to be said. So I think that we've got a tough game coming up on Monday. We'll try and get another episode out hopefully sometime this week so we can kind of give a little more in-depth breakdown. We spent most of this time talking about the Ravens game, but yeah, I think it's been a good one, boys. So let's shut her down and we'll get back at it later in the week and go Bengals, Who dey?
Right on. We'll wrap her up. Tony, you got closing thoughts, bud? Anything you want to say? A little who day?
Nah, little who day right now. Just get a dub, guys. Get a dub.
Yes, sir. All right, fellas. Appreciate having you on. It makes the loss a little easier. If you guys haven't listened to Jeff was on the show, Strawberry Iceman. He was on the show the other day. He had a really cool episode with Corey Dillon. He had Corey Dillon on. He had Greg Luther, and he had Bengals captain on. So that was a super cool episode. If you guys want a little pick me up, listen to it. I would say watch it on YouTube because they did a cool little segment with Corey Dillon, just some highlights of his career, which was super cool. So yeah, go on, check that dude out, and watch that. And I know there's some different takes on Corey Dillon, different things he said or whatever. Dude is just real. He spits it real. Watch what he has to say on that show and watch some highlights. It's a really fun show to see. I watched it earlier today, or I was listening to it and kind of watching it a little bit. And when the highlights came on, I was like, man, that was super cool. It brightened my day up. I'm sure it'll brighten your guys' day. But we got another week. We got another day. As my late and great baseball coach said, the sun will come up tomorrow. We got another day. So we'll end it at that. Who day, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Who dey?